Welcome to the Innovation World podcast. Innovation World is your go-to source for all things innovation, invention, and entrepreneurship. Our website is www.innovationworld.org.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Innovation World. This is your co-host, Carmine Danisco, coming to you on the Launch Network. We are so excited to have this podcast going on. We got a lot of cool stuff to cover today. Let me bring on my co-host, Ms. Julie Shively. Julie, what's happening?
Phenomenal week, getting ready for the first ever global innovation field trip, and then it going live at noon time, U.S. time, in Eastern time zone on the 14th, which was Thursday. We ran all the way to noon on Friday. We had fabulous guests. We had, I think, 103 total presenters, 81 presentations, 15 different countries participating. I think maybe up to 20 countries watching. I mean, it was a blast. So can't wait for the next one, which will be July 9th and 10th. And we still have openings. Though we're filling quickly. We have openings for both young innovators. So students that are K-12 that want to get on, tell their story about innovation, and motivate the rest of the kids in the world to become innovators, as well as program leaders to talk about how they are out there innovating in their respective country or locality. It was just so much fun. Do you feel well rested now, or are you still learning?
Man, that was crazy. One thing you didn't mention was 120 presenters and all this stuff, but the 5 minutes of sleep that we had was, oh my God, it was crazy. It was crazy. But what I couldn't believe, and we're still talking about it, is the coordination. All the presenters, all the kids, all the inventors, everybody, they were there right on time all over the world. And I was just in awe of that. And of course, the coordination, the timing, I know that we have Jake on. Let's bring Jake on. Jake, what did you think about the event?
Well, I would love to take credit for it and say all the coordination was wonderful because I'm a genius. The truth is we're dealing with people who are very good at being creative, being innovative, making things, doing things. They are by definition not lazy. They're not last minute type of people. And so it worked well because we found some of the greatest people on the planet. And frankly, I know there are some more, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in July.
So we'll have in July, I think we're going to have some of our visitors or guests from May will join us again with new topics, and then we'll have a whole new crew of presenters. So, and I think you have invited one of our May presenters and one of our good friends and colleagues to today's show.
Yeah, she was awesome. And I'm so glad you brought her on because I thought she was awesome on the show.
So, Jake, would you
Okay, speaking of that, let me introduce Dr. Melissa Butt, who has one flaw in that she's a little bit modest about what the things she does. And my mission today is to keep pushing her and prodding her to tell the great stories about what she is doing in the United Kingdom and frankly, around the world. You are a leader, Melissa. And so would you like to talk about some of the many things that are going on in the UK right now?
Okay, thank you, Jake. I'll start off by saying that I don't think that I am modest, but I think that a lot of the great things that happen are attributed to the great children that we work with. You know, all the awesome things that we're able to do, all of the great things that we're able to achieve, and all of the innovative programs that we're able to deliver, and the great teachers that we're able to work with who help to drive that force. It's down to being able to work with such fantastic, innovative, hardworking young people and teachers as well. Some outstanding teachers in the UK in schools who we're working alongside, who are really innovative and really hardworking, and they've got a real drive to support the next generation of innovators. And then we're also really blessed to be able to work with some fantastic people across the world as well, some absolute experts, some real STEM leaders who really help us to drive things and make sure that we're not just working in a UK bubble, but we're actually getting the children to work at the same level as the children across the rest of the world. And that's people like Jake and Julie, who really make a difference and mean that we can make this a really truly global programs that we do here in the UK. So basically, I'm the founder of a not-for-profit organisation called Discovery STEM Education, which was set up about 6 years ago. We're based on an industrial museum site, so that's a history of innovation, and we're kind of sat on there in our centre, supporting young people to then be the innovators of the future. So it links in really nicely. And we started off originally just doing whatever practical science, technology, engineering and mathematics, fun classes, workshops, school enrichment days that we could do. So we ran programs in our centre, but then we also went out to schools across the UK, locally where we're based in Sheffield, but also across the UK to do that. So we wanted to work on that mission of driving the next generation of scientists, technologists, engineers and mathematicians. And at the same time, the government had noticed that there was a need for that. We'd got more jobs coming up in that sector. We've still got more of those jobs coming up. And so there's a real need to drive young people to enjoy those subjects and to take them further. Over the years, we've then kind of split our STEM programs and everything that we do into two main channels, what we believe are the two main important areas of STEM enrichment. So as well as the important education that children need in schools, the practical, the theoretical sides of science and English and maths and all the real practical theory things that need to be taught in school, the other two arms that we feel are really important that we can support and drive schools to really make a difference to young people are invention and robotics. So robotics really helps young people because they are given problems and then they have to be creative in the coding and their engineering skills to then solve that problem, but they can do it in many different ways. And then at invention, where we really need young people to be able to identify their own problems and then solve those problems in a creative way. So they're the two arms that we've really focused on now. And what we tend to do to really make a difference is we do our own classes, we do run classes and we do go into schools and our staff run workshops, and we work alongside the STEM Ambassador Programme, which is a huge government programme where we can work with STEM ambassadors all over the UK. We work with a lot of PhD students from universities, from a variety of universities who've got science, technology, engineering or mathematics backgrounds. They're either doing undergraduates or they're doing postgraduate masters or PhDs. But as well as doing that, we really want to be able to support teachers and schools to be able to support young people so that they are getting access to this kind of thing every day, not just now and again when someone comes and visits in the school or now and again when they go to after school classes. So we do a lot of teacher training now. In the last couple of years, we've had a big focus on training teachers to run the robotics program that we're running. And we're starting to train teachers to also run the invention programs that we're running. And we're making them as global as possible. So with the robotics, we've sent children off to China twice, sponsored by Rolls-Royce and the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre. We've also had two global events in the UK where we've had outstanding robotics children from Mexico and China come to visit. And we plan to do the same kind of thing with our invention events as well, online and in person. And what's been really exciting as far as our invention programme goes, the latest news really is that a few weeks ago we were involved in the first Invent Future Global Invention Online convention, which was really exciting. We had children from the UK and the United States of America, Chile, I think we had children from Mexico and Canada, and it was so exciting. They just presented their work to each other and to a group of judges who were STEM experts and teachers, and they got some great feedback from the judges. But what was absolutely incredible was to see these children from very different countries at a time when most schools aren't even open and they can't really even leave their homes, asking each other questions and giving each other advice about their inventions. And it was a truly global collaboration amongst young people. Really, it was the questions and feedback from the children that was really, really exciting and really innovative. And then I was really, really honoured and excited to be involved in the first global innovation field trip, which happened, and you've just been talking about, which happened last week, which was a fantastic event, and I'm still working through YouTube to try and see all of the amazing presentations. It was absolutely fantastic. And now I'm just really excited about what's going to happen in the future. We've just recently found out that we've got an EPSRC grant, which is the Engineering, Physical Sciences and Research Council. They've provided a grant for a group that we're involved in. We work with several universities and institutes across the UK. We've now got a grant to work alongside the Skills and Education Department for the Department for Education to develop and support schools officially with the government to actually make a difference to schools and help them to decide how they're going to run robotics and train young people in innovation and robotics in schools, so that they can meet and schools can meet the needs of the jobs of the future for the children, but by incorporating it into the curriculum. And then I'm very excited about the rest of the next Global Innovation Field Trip, which is going to happen in May, and I hope to speak there again. That's just about everything. That's a nutshell summary of what we've been doing over the last 6 years.
Is that all? I mean, come on.
Wait a minute. I'm going to interrupt. Melissa's great talent is that she gets people excited about what she is doing and they want to join her. So, Melissa, would you like to talk about your relationships you have with some of your corporate sponsors, and also with what the government is doing and what you're doing nationally?
So our one of our first sponsors that came on board really were Rolls-Royce, who sponsored some of the children. So they didn't sponsor us, they sponsored some of the children to be able to go to international contests, which was a great step forward. It meant that we could get all sorts of children out of the door who were doing really well. It didn't matter, it wasn't just about whether they'd got money or not, whether they could take the opportunity. Whoever the most skilled children were, they could have that opportunity, and that was because Rolls-Royce afforded that opportunity to them, which was absolutely fantastic. And it meant that those children then also had a relationship where they could even go to Rolls-Royce and have a tour around, and they were like the VIPs of Rolls-Royce, and that continued last year as well. We have a really good relationship and a partnership with our local university, Sheffield University, where we've done all sorts of collaborations with them, and they've supported and sponsored various things that we've done, and children and their staff are on board with everything that we do. University staff and students are on board with everything that we do. We are also working alongside the company ARM, who make the chips that go inside all of mobile phones and most electrical devices. So they're a global company, but they have 2 offices in the UK, one in Cambridge and then one on our doorstep here in Sheffield. So it's really exciting that they work with us, and we've actually trained. What we do with our relationship with them is a little bit different. We actually train their STEM education outreach team to do the programs that we do. So in the same way that we train teachers to deliver our programs, we've trained their STEM outreach team. So when they're trying to go into schools to talk about what you can do and the careers that you can have in ARM, they've actually got a practical tool, and they've got something exciting and hands-on to really get the children engaged in what they do. And they're going to be at our global events in the future as well. We also work closely with the Confucius Institute in the UK as well. Any children that need to go to any countries, like if they need to go to China, they need to speak Mandarin, then they've got access to as many free Mandarin classes as they need. That's all I can think of at the moment. And then our new big collaboration is the one that I mentioned earlier with the EPSRC grant, which is we've got a group called the UK Robotics Autonomous Systems Skills and Education Strategy Group, and we are the STEM organisation representative within that group, alongside York University, Sheffield University, and Institute of Engineering, Institute of Coding, STEM learning, so some really big STEM driving organisations in the UK. We're now part of a group with them, which is really exciting. We've been part of the UK STEM strategy group, steering STEM strategy group for our local region for 6 years, but this is kind of a step into something new as well as doing that in a bigger group that's not just local, but it's more of a national group.
Hey, Melissa, real quick. From what you're talking about, it seems like everybody who's anybody wants to be involved in robotics in some way.
I think it's a big thing of the future, isn't it? I think people are realizing that many things are becoming, that many things are now being incorporated in with robotics. So it's kind of coming into everything. We've got PhD students who we work with who are doing things like programming robots to be able to answer or advise you on which shampoo and conditioner you should use. So the robot asks a series of questions, and according to whatever your answer is, she has a selection of 5 conditioners and shampoos, and she is able to recommend the correct one to you. We've got another PhD robotics student who works with us, and she's programmed a robot to be able to do a 24-hour ward round with a nurse around as well. But she can go and do the 24-hour ward round, I think, of 12 patients and get the correct dosage of the correct drug at the right time for 24 hours. And it's coming in some ways, it's coming into everything. We've got the Internet of Everything as a really big theme this year, how the internet is really coming into everything and how it's slowly come into our daily lives in many ways. And many of the jobs of the future, regardless of what our opinions on this are going to involve needing those skills. So I think a lot of companies are coming on board with supporting young people with that, and then also schools and educational organisations are wanting to come on board with supporting that as well, and funding bodies as well.
Yeah. But Melissa, isn't there a problem with robotics? Because it's hands-on, it's a physical thing. It's impossible to run a virtual online robotics program. It just can't be done. Isn't that correct?
Well, I remember last year I was on a special meeting day, which was all about protecting your organisation despite what can happen, and we were planning for all sorts of things. And when they said, what would you do in a pandemic? I said, oh, we won't be able to do anything really, because what we do is hands-on practical, and training teachers hands-on practical, and training children hands-on practical. So we can't have an alternative method of doing that. So I guess that would be really, really bad for us. And then came the pandemic and we weren't stopping. And I thought back to what I'd said the previous year, and I thought, well, that was such a silly thing to say, because that's not, we will never stop. We have to keep these children going and these teachers going. So our staff just worked very hard, very quickly. As those couple of weeks before we got locked down in the UK, we predicted what was about to happen. So we all worked very hard for those 2 weeks on developing online classes. And it's something that I've never done before, my staff have never done before, but we really worked together, and my staff were awesome, and they all came up with different kinds of fantastic online classes, and trying to find ways, how can we still make it practical? We don't want to just teach them theory of robotics, we wanted kids to remain practical. So we found ways that we can be using our robots, and they can be coding, and they can be sending stuff to us through a chat box, and we can be trialing their things. And a couple of the children have got their own robots at home, so we would get those children to work in a team with us. We would be testing some things that some people are advising on the coding, and then they would help us. And we kind of had the same teamwork going that would happen in our normal classes. But we're able to do some higher level theory. So we got the children to do lots of things like angle calibration curves. We were still using the robots. They were doing the coding and the mathematics on the computer. They were sending us information. Then we were testing it on the robot. When it wasn't working, they were telling us, you need to do this, or you need to change it. You need to go up more time or less time. And it was still that collaborative kind of class, and the robots were still involved, and the children were still, they were doing their engineering by drawing. So whereas in the classes they would have done their engineered solutions with kit, they just drew it. They've had a big focus on things like cog systems and calibration curves for distance, so that now they can code their robots much quicker in the future. They can figure out how many seconds they need to code into their robot to make it go a set distance at a set speed. Really high level calibration curves, kind of A-level and university level things, but they're really going to be able to use that with their practical robotics when they get back into the centres and back into schools. So we've managed to find a way. We've now done 8 classes, and that's been run with 7 different groups. And the children are coming back and want to know how they can carry on next week, and we're now passing all of that information, all of those classes, onto teachers so that they can now start to run the same classes. Now that we know that they definitely work, we're now starting to pass that on to teachers in the UK, but also internationally as well.
Yeah, but Melissa, you used a lot of big words and talked about some very sophisticated concepts. So these were all college students, right? That's who you're dealing with.
Age 5 to 18. So we have classes of children aged 5 to 8 who now know what a calibration curve is, and they can do it and they can use it. And they had trials last week for our next Global Robotics event, and they did it, and we got great answers. So
and you can watch. I watch your students frequently online. Melissa has everything online. Well, probably not everything, but you have a lot. All of the time online. You have a lot of content, and it's under on Facebook under Discovery STEM Education.
Yeah, Discovery STEM Education, and then our robotics. A lot of robotics, sort of the bigger events and advice for teachers on teacher training in robotics is on WER Space UK. And then we've got we're also involved with the Invent Future Global Facebook page as well.
So doesn't it seem like there was a new ceiling that just recently broke? You know, everyone refers to the glass ceiling as one thing, but this is just, there were organizations who felt like, yeah, maybe we could go online, maybe we can't. There were organizations who never could go online. There were organizations who always could go. And all of a sudden, it's like it's disappeared. That barrier is gone. And people who didn't think they could do things can now do everything they could do before, and sometimes even more. I mean, our reach is much greater now that we're thinking from a perspective of our world is just on the internet instead of necessarily physical right in front of us. It just opens up so many doors.
Yeah. And we've been doing the same thing with our invention program as well. We've been doing it online, and that's one thing that we thought would be really, really hard to do the invention program online, because the children tend to work at different stages of their invention. So we thought that could really pose a problem for us, because we can't actually work with them hands-on. But we've managed to set a 6-week invention program online, and a 6-week online invention program where they go through each step. And at the end of each step, at the end of each 1-hour class, they've done something, they've learned a stage of the invention process, they've done something, but then they need to do something else at home. They need to follow up the next. It might be that they're building their prototype, or it might be that they're at the stage where they need to collect data to find out how they're going to change their design. And then they have that ready for the beginning of the next session. And at the beginning of the next session, they're discussing and showing what they've done, and then learning the next stage of the invention process. And we've managed to do a 6-week invention program online, and some of those children were then able to present at the Global Innovation Field Trip and the Invent Future Global as well.
Very nice.
So it's possible. Anything is possible.
It probably freed up a little more time for you to take on several more initiatives.
Yeah, and for all of my staff as well, we all used to spend a lot of time driving here to this location, to that location, this school, that school, to our centre. We spent a lot of time driving, and that time is now ours to do creative things.
Or in Carmine's case, pedaling. He rides his bike to and fro every day.
That's a training. Then I just ride it there. No. Hey, Melissa, we only have a few minutes left real quick. From the younger kids to the older kids, and you through the virtualization and talking online, have you seen a difference though in how much they can take in or how much they can actually do? Or does it seem kind of that learning curve, but it kind of was the same?
It's really varied, to be honest. I think that some of the children have benefited from it, just being able to sit without the distraction of other children. Some children have benefited from that. But then there's other children who have found it difficult to sit on a computer. And there's some children who some of them have found ways with their parents and with our staff. They've found ways to overcome that barrier. It might be that they just don't want anyone to see their face and they want to sit there quiet. They don't want their name displayed or something along those lines. But some children have found it a bit stressful. So we didn't let that stop them. We've just forwarded the resources to the parents then, and they're going through it with their parents. So they've not been part of a couple of the classes, but then they're going through it with their parents and doing it in their own time, however they feel comfortable. So they're still accessing it. I don't think that there's anybody who's stopped accessing it. And the teachers are now there's 4 schools who've already started to disseminate this into their communities of children. As their home learning, part of their home learning packs. That's what we have in the UK, home learning packs.
So Melissa, before we go today, if you could do a call out for what you need, program wise, support wise, funding wise, what is it you would need? What would you like to make a call out for?
I guess.
So some people say for Jake to come out and visit with them.
Oh yeah. Well, that's supposed to happen in July. We don't know if it happens. But to just continue working with all of the great people that we're working with across the globe, to be able to continue to work with the fantastic young people and teachers that we work with, and more, to get more on board. It would be great to see more people from across the globe getting involved in the robotics program, the World Educational Robotics program that we run, and it would be great to see more in the UK, and that's something that we're driving in the UK, but it would be great to see even more countries coming on board with that. And with our Invent Future Global, it was so exciting that we had, I think, was it 6 countries, Jake, for the first? Yeah, we had 6 countries, and that was absolutely fantastic for the first one. And they were high quality presenters, those young people as well. The inventions were fantastic, and the way that they spoke and the way that they answered the questions, they were really high quality. And it would be great to get more. I'd love to see over this next year more than double the amount of countries coming on board with that, and more than double the amount of children getting involved in that, and no new programs, more exciting programs, more global programs, and everyone working together in the great collaborative way that we do, and sharing that information on the Global Innovation Field Trip, seeing more people come on board there, and seeing
how many young inventors did you have on the first field trip?
So we had 2 who presented together, who made you cry.
Aaron and Robert. Oh yes.
Yeah. Then we had some of our colleagues. Professor Siddharth Patwadhan presented. I think that was it, and I did. But
you were there, yeah.
I was there, and I expect that there'll be more in the next one in July. Now that people know more about it and they've seen.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to visit with us today and to share about your programs. And we look forward to seeing you July 9th and 10th, or 9th or 10th, at the Global Innovation Field Trip. I just want to remind everyone as well, if you want to go out and check out the May Field Trip, go to innovationworld.org, and right on the homepage, there's a link for the May Field Trip, and also a link to visit for more information about how to get involved in the July or the September or the November field trips. We've got all of the dates slated already for the rest of the year. And we'd love to have you participate, especially if you're a young innovator and want to share your story with the world.
Yeah, right, Julia. That's awesome. And send us some blankets or pillows, because we're going to need them while we're there playing this 24 hours. It was awesome, though. It was really great. But yeah, go on out to innovationworld.org and check it out. If possible, any of you guys out there are listening in, go on out to Google Play or iTunes or wherever you consume your podcast media, and leave us a rating or review. We could really use it, and we'd like to know what you think and of our show, and also how we can serve you better, what questions we can answer, and things in that sense. So for myself, Carmen Danisco, Ms. Julie Shively, Jake Middleton, and the great Melissa Butt, we thank you for visiting us today. And we'll catch you
Thank
next
you so
time
much.
on Innovation World. You all take care.
And you.
Thank you for joining us today for the Innovation World podcast on the Launch Network. Innovation World is your go-to source for all things innovation, invention, and entrepreneurship. Our website is www.innovationworld.org.